good morning, all of you. This is me, Adnan Gauri, the founder and director of iWorkstation. I welcome you all to Industry BIM Connect session. And I would like to first introduce our panel members. The very first one is Chirag Dedia, who is the director of Studio 4. Nagaraja Jopaka, who is the vice president and the technical BIM. Sohail Rizvi is the BIM manager at PAN IPD. Animesh Fayaz Sarkar is the general manager at PAN Gulf Technologies. And Mohammad Saeed Nadeem, who is the BIM consultant at PCP. So basically the agenda of today's session is to connect the industry people together, and we have a common agenda as BIM implementation in India. So we will be taking a few questions and we'll be asking these questions to our panel members and getting to know what their experiences are in their projects, what challenges or the difficulties they have faced while implementing these things. So what we'll do, we'll just quickly start with the first question to Chirag Dedia. Well, there's a very common question we all have, how to convince stakeholders to implement BIM on a project. Yes, Chirag, what do you think about it?
This question is kind of multifold, I feel. How do you convince stakeholders to get onto the BIM journey? And I think that we have to all collectively understand is that different stakeholders have different interests, right? So when we talk about the owner of an organization, he's more concerned about the monetary aspects of spending on BIM and the returns that he will get out of BIM. If you're let's say a senior manager in the organization, he's concerned about whether he can keep the projects going with full steam, and will they be in green always, like as well. When you talk to people in the middle management, are more concerned about timelines. They are more concerned about quality resources being available. They are more, is this any different than what we are doing in CAD? Can the person who has been using CAD for the several years now, can he use BIM?
Right.
So those, right? And if you're talking to somebody who is absolutely the person who's going to do the work, then he's more concerned about his career, his growth. He's concerned about what's in it for me in the future. Are there better prospects in the future with BIM? They are also concerned about can this reduce my time, draw something or to create something. So I think the point here is that we first need to know who we are talking to, right? Person we are talking to, and that will also, please never assume. One thing I've learned is never assume who you are speaking with, right? Always ask them the questions, and a group of questions, it kind of unearths who are you speaking with? Are you speaking with a junior person? Are you speaking to a middle manager? Are you speaking to a senior manager? Are you speaking to the owner of the organization, right? So first get that sorted. Once you have that sorted, the next step then is to then address what he is interested in. Addressing what you know about BIM, right? So you may know a lot about BIM, you may know the benefits of BIM, etc. But you need to first figure concern and what would interest him. So again, asking a few questions would help you, right? So ask him questions like, what are your current challenges in your processes that you're following? And you and I need to be extremely patient with this question with them, right? People are not very open to answering this question as easily. Like the problems that they face.
Chirag, suppose we take the different stakeholders as design consultants, like basically the architects, civil engineers, and the MEP consultants. Like, how do we convince these people to implement BIM in their workflows itself? Not just the builders. If we take the consultants itself, how do we convince these people?
Yeah. So, let's look together. What is a consultant interested in?
Yeah.
Right. He gets a certain fee, and that certain fee may not be for him a lot, even if he works on BIM. So what is going to be his interest? in my view and limited experience that I have over the last decade, I'm more interested to understand that, okay, will this increase their value in the market? Okay. Is this going to increase a lot of time that they project? But if it's going to increase the time that they put in to do the work, will it reduce the cost for them? So I think one of the parameters that a lot of people in the BIM fraternity, even if the time increases to do work on BIM, it's not necessary that the cost is also going to increase. So for a design consultant, question for a design consultant, if you look at an architectural firm, the people who are making the drawings are the junior most resources in an organization. Whereas the IT to resolve problems are the most expensive and the most senior resources in an organization. So in a CAD environment, you will notice that most of the in a project, they do very few drawings and details, and they resolve majority of the problems at site, because that's how the CAD technology works. Yes, to draw things. So we tend to draw little, and then we resolve things at site. So in that case, what happens is, for an architectural firm, the junior resources are, the senior resources are utilized maximum to resolve things at site. And that is where the money goes for them. In BIM, the junior resources will work more to complete the design, right? But the senior most resources will be utilized less and less to resolve problems at site, because there will be lesser problems at site. So lesser RFIs, hence lesser problems, lesser questions from the site team, and lesser time invested by the senior most resources on the project. So if you actually these down, the junior resources being a chunk of it who are spending time on BIM, but they are least expensive, and the senior resources are the most expensive, but they are spending very less time now. And this is exactly where you start saving money as a design consultant. So these are the things that they are interested in, right? If you talk to the firm, this is what he's interested in. He doesn't want to hire too many senior resources in his organization. He doesn't want to spend too much time with them and too much money on them. And they are actually difficult to get. They're expensive as well in the market. So that in mind, you need to talk to those stakeholders accordingly, right? I think for that matter, if you're talking to a government stakeholder, it will be the same thing over there. You have to first understand what are they interested in, why would they even think about BIM, and go forward. So I think a lot of homework needs to be done before we start talking, before we start interacting with those people. So a lot of homework needs to be done about that.
That's a great insight, Chirag. Sorry, may I interrupt?
Yeah, sure, Animesh.
Yeah, Chirag. So that's really a great insight from a business perspective. If you are implementing, trying to convince a stakeholder, I'll agree to all of your points. And again, when we say stakeholder, it's a broad, only from an internal perspective within an organization, but also from an organizational perspective, like what kind of organization, right? Like Adnan just asked, like for architects, it could be multiple different stakeholders. It could be an architect, it could be a contractor, could be a builder, developer, could be a fabricator, So it really, are we really trying to implement BIM as an employee there and trying to convince the management and going forward? Or are we an external company there? So in either of the case, I think first we need to find out, why do we need to implement BIM? Do they really need it? Let's say a simple warehouse. Will he benefit from implementing BIM or doing it over BIM? Maybe not, because there are issues in terms of conflict, or for him the structure is like a PEB structure, which is already pre-coordinated, a couple of sections, elevations, plans, gets the job done. On comms, he might need it. So we really need to understand whom we are talking to, who is the stakeholder here, where do we need to implement it, and why do we need to implement it. I think the what you said, ask a lot of questions So we need to find out in terms of the project as well, like what kind of project they are doing and where is the place where they might help from them. So rather than suggesting anybody, hey, just change your phone, buy the latest iPhone that's on the market, will you really need it? So how do we know and find the places where they need BIM, which can help them? So that's where we can probably do we'll have to work a bit. We'll have to various internal teams within an organization, talk to the estimation team, the procurement team, the designing team, the architects, find out where the challenge, let's say there are no challenges at all. Most of the cases we might not even see the challenges because they are not always served to us on a plate. We will have to find them. So what would be the challenges? Doing something in a less efficient way. We might see that, plans are still being drawn, sections are still being drawn. That's not a challenge at all. But what if we go and tell them everything can be done in a much, automatically that becomes a challenge. So there are challenges which might not be very evident for them, but we will have to bring it out, show them that the system going, the way they are doing things are less efficient and can be improved drastically by using them. So if we really go and talk to the various internet, one case study that we can prepare in terms of actually implementing BIM and trying to convince somebody. So we'll have to come up with a series of points, a case study that, hey, this is what you do, projects you do, this is the type of teams that you have internally, this is the exact type of outputs that you use, like you're using plans, you're using sections, you're using estimates, you're using a design document, you are using certain other things. This is how I can get you the same stuff in a much more efficient way. So case study, we might have to prepare a small small demonstration in terms of taking a very small part of any projects that stakeholder works on, try and create a solution around it, creating a live example how you have solved it through certain BIM implementation, and come back with the same kind of outputs. We don't engineer them at the beginning that it is very difficult, there's a lot of resources go into it, or there's a lot of cost addition to it. We will have to come back with a solution which only solves what they not solve something which they don't need anyways. If a simple contractor or a builder is not using 4D at site or site, he might not be needing it in the first place. So we'll have to start where the things which he is using or the company is using, and then create which would typically start with two different things. Probably one is the BIM business plan, which in my past experience, that's the first thing when we need to start teams in BIM. So we come up with a business plan where we talk about everything: the cost, the resources, the manpower, the amount of duration, the milestones, and how much it is going to cost, and what would be the tangible benefits and returns from that. And then we, that, hey, if done correctly, these are the outputs you would be receiving in so and so milestones, and this would be your return on investment. And so BIM can only be sustainable, I believe, if it is done correctly. It cannot be done. We don't have the luxury to, it's like somebody is needing a vehicle to give him or propose him a BMW or a Audi in the first place. We might have to give him something which he wants and which will be really useful for him based on the factors, based on the project that is, internal teams that a company has, and based on the type of company it is. And then that becomes a tailored solution. So they only invest in what they want. Then we do exactly what needs to be done. So I think that would be my perspective.
Right. So like, what do you think about like Sohail? You there?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
As Chirag was saying that first of all we need to understand the requirement of the stakeholder. In that place, the stakeholder depends like what is the profession or like what do they do. For example, the stakeholder might be the owner. So the requirement for them will be the workflow of BIM will be different for them. And for example, if the client, the stakeholder is an architect, the benefit of the BIM for them will be different. It differs from stakeholders to stakeholders. For example, an MEP consultant might need BIM for coordination. For example, in a hospital project, complex airport project, they need to do design coordination such that HVAC ducts and plumbing do not interfere with each other. So in that case, MEP consultant can use the BIM tool, and for example, it depends on who is using that, who will benefit from BIM basically. So that's what I think about it. So understanding the requirement of the client, why they need it, in what way we can benefit them. Okay, so first of all, we need to check with them, like what I have. For example, what I have seen is with my clients, what I have seen is like in India, in Mumbai, for example, there are many MEP consultants and many architects. Architects are aware of BIM applications and processes, but other consultants such as structural consultant and MEP consultant are not well aware of those BIM tools. So we need to explain to them the benefits, and there are like we need to assist them softwares and tools.
Right.
Okay, we need to teach them how to use it for their purpose. Like for example, they want to produce fabrication drawings, so we need to tell them how to produce fabrication drawings from, and sometimes they want specifications, so we need to explain to them, like in such workflow you can attain this goal.
Right.
Is what I think. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, Chirag, I would like to ask you, like, you have implemented a lot of projects, BIM. Like, can you give one of the example, like, about what challenges or the difficulties that you have faced while implementing BIM, and how did you actually convince the builder or the owner or the different stakeholder? An example from one of your projects.
Well, I have enough examples. I have enough cases where things have gone great, things have gone bad, etc., etc. I think one of the things that I've learned is that you have to carry the ecosystem along with you. Any project has a years, and I am of the opinion that each player in the ecosystem is capable of doing their part in BIM. It's just that they have never tried it. It's just into it. They've never dirtied their hands into it. So to give you an example, recently with a developer we are working, and we were of the opinion that their MEP consultant, they themselves can do BIM. The developer can then take those models and do coordination and other things that they want, or estimation and other aspects that they want.
Right.
So all the players in the ecosystem to do that. We are helping the developer, we are helping the architect, structure, MEP, all of them to do their piece of business in BIM by themselves. And necessarily training the architect and the structural consultant as such, because that's not our job to do. It's their job to go and find out the trainings and do by themselves. But I think at the very first level, what is there to convince the developer is, I think we have passed that stage now. About 5 years back, I had to talk to the developer or the architect saying that, okay, these are the benefits of BIM. But I'm seeing that we don't have to tell them what are the benefits of BIM. I didn't know that. They have heard from so many of us over a very long duration of time now that they know the benefits of BIM. I think what they are concerned about is how is it going to all play out. They did themselves, so they don't know how it's going to actually come through. So, we actually explain to them the pros and cons of doing BIM through the consultant, doing BIM by themselves, like creating a modeling team internally, or by doing BIM through a third-party modeling agency. We talk to them about the pros and cons of each, and then for them to select what they think is best for them. And in many cases, their first obvious choice is, okay, let us get BIM done from a third-party modeling agency, right? Because that's the, but there are challenges in that. So I lay down the challenges for them, that if they do it through a third-party agency, what happens and what might happen, which they now, or they haven't seen it before. I have seen all cases and all kinds of things. So I exactly know what can go right and wrong in any kind of a scenario. So I lay it out for them. At the end, they choose. For this project, I'm going to get it done through my consultants. And I find that it's important that my consultants get geared up, because I do 50% of my business with the same consultant. And hence, I want them to get started. If they get started in this one project, I know that, my rest of the projects are also getting secured because of that. So these are various ways that I can look at, and eventually it's their choice. And at the end of the day, when it's their choice, then they take it all the way through. As a technical person in BIM, obviously talk about the technicalities of BIM, but at the business side of it, if the consultant in the middle of the project fails to deliver at the business level, their business to the business heads of that consultant and still get that project going, right? So we have to know what are our limits as technical people in BIM. We talk to them about why they should continue to work on BIM, but that's not going to carry the day. At the business level, the business head of the developer organization should be able to talk to the business head of the firm or a structural firm and continue that process on BIM and not let it derail. So we need to be clear that at the business level also, with all these people, we are able to interact and we are able to clearly, and they know the benefits that they're going to get, and they do not stop in between just because somebody is failing to deliver. So these are the things that I have seen happen on projects, and we are lucky enough, actually fortunate enough, that we've been able to keep all those projects stable on BIM and not let it derail. So yeah, but it's 10% software and 90% people that I have to deal with.
Exactly. Now, basically, the next question I would like to Animesh, like, what could be the cost of implementing BIM on a project? What could be the cost of it? Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it will vary from project depending. Of course, the cost can be broken down into three major chunks, which is the software, hardware, and manpower. Let's start with the manpower. When it comes, of course, you need to first choose the software that you want to use for them. I may take names, but there are companies which have the major in terms of software, and there would be more people available as a manpower to work on those software. So that becomes easier if you choose a software which is widely followed, and getting manpower is easy. Then again, that also depends upon the region that you are. Mostly in India, you might see a certain software as a majority of a coverage, but abroad, if Europe might have a different kind of a necessity. Australia might have a different kind of a software that they typically follow. So let's say we choose upon the software first, and then we come down to the you will have to think of a team, and then you have to think that how the team is going to grow, and are you going to start the the top way down? You're going to start with a senior manager and then go down, or you want to start with a very small team with a team lead kind of a position. So the salaries and all that has to be considered. Then there is the cost of the software itself. The softwares have gone from perpetual to annual subscription basis mostly. So there was a point of time when you could own once and not update it for 3-4 years and still not pay anything extra and continue to use it. But now it has gone more on an annual term and subscription basis. There are even flexible options for monthly, 3 monthly, 6 monthly, so that costs are also available. You can find that out for the respective software. You can pay as you go to take that approach. Then there is the hardware. So hardware is something where you have to keep one factor in mind, which is the VFM, like the value for money. You should think of getting a system which does the job and doesn't overshoot the budget as well. So don't be very luxurious with it. I can still say that, you know, having a good processor. I mean, i7, if you say, it's a very broad term. i7 has so many different types of processors in it. Though the typical softwares will, you know, the system requirement is quad core or a certain i7 processor. So you will have to probably, you know, just find out benchmarking for a certain processor. You can Google that term if you are not aware about that. See that you buy the fastest processor that you can afford, and then a good graphics card, there is a NVIDIA Quadro series good for hardware, but then again it could be expensive if you are buying a P4000 series. Depends what kind of so you will have to basically kind of go the balanced route. So you cannot invest on a very high-end processor or a low-end graphics. You have to go moderate on everything so that your overall kind of works with it.
Yeah.
And so the
Yeah,
systems
I
could be
mean,
between,
if I
you
would
know,
like to ask
yes,
you
Adnan,
about
sorry.
like,
Yeah.
if I would like to ask you about like which one tool or the one BIM tool we can use to achieve the maximum number of deliverables in the BIM. Like, what do you suggest? Like, one tool basically which can achieve the maximum deliverables in the BIM. What do you suggest from your?
See, Adnan, I'm pretty sure Revit is very popular.
Yeah.
So is ArchiCAD is also a great, fantastic tool. MicroStation is there, you know. But then again, getting people in Revit is fairly easier. But then again, learning ArchiCAD is much easier compared to Revit. Revit takes a little,
Right.
you know, more skillful hands on it. So I mean, that's company, that's completely up to the region they are, the accessibility they have to manpower. But I think fairly nowadays, every software is kind of capable, competitive. So every software is capable to do a variety of things. And BIM doesn't really work from a one tool perspective. You might have to invest into, you might have to invest, or you might look at Tekla BIM Site, which is a free tool. You might use some other applications which are also out there. You can Google it.
Right.
But the thing is, which is value for money again. I mean, don't get a tool which has a lot of functionality and you are not going to use it. Go for something which has the functionality which you need. Think of upgrading as you go forward.
Right. So one more question I have from Sohail. Yeah. Sohail, if we want to educate the stakeholders, like the design consultants or the owners or the builders about how do we implement BIM. So as you are in the training as well, you train also the students and the corporate people. So what do you suggest like would be the best methodology to educate people in terms of BIM implementation when we talk about the corporate training? Yeah.
We need to ask questions to them, like what do they do, what have been they doing in the organization, okay, and lay out what they need to learn about them. Like for example, an architect practicing interior decorating or interior design or renovation project, he might need not learn MEP or other aspects of BIM such as infrastructure and green building type of 4D or 5D simulation. What he needs to learn is basically producing drawing sets and renderings and creating schedules. For example, how much paint will be needed, how much flooring area will be needed,
Right.
and if I want MEP person, like an MEP person comes in various forms. For example, HVAC consultant, HVAC engineer, plumbing engineer, sprinkler designer. So there are various subsets. Okay, in MEP also there are various subsets. No one person does all the job. Two parts. Okay, so when they approach me, I usually ask them like what do they do. For example, if a person is doing HVAC, so I'll I suggest him to learn HVAC. Okay, first for example, the how to implement BIM in HVAC. Okay, for producing HVAC coordination drawings, fabrication drawings, and and how to model families. Okay,
Right.
I have to teach them. Yes.
Understood. Yeah. So like, what do you think, Chirag? Like, how do we educate the different stakeholders in terms of BIM implementation? What could be the best?
Yeah, I think one is the technical part of education, the technicality of various softwares for different stakeholders. It's the technical part, and I think that's the easiest one to do. A part is to educate them at a more, and this is what the senior most stakeholders require. They need education at the level which is more abstract. All about why is it so necessary? Why is the industry moving towards BIM? Why are the larger stakeholders or the larger companies, adopting BIM? What is in it for? What is the government doing about BIM? Is there a policy around it? Is there any government agency adopting it? What is of interest to holders in that organization? So we have to think a little more abstract. Technical definitely is required for those guys who are interested to draw and to model things. Technical aspects are more important. Please remember that people who give you money for doing BIM are the non-technical guys. So the people who are going to pay for it are the people. They don't need technical jargons. They don't need to understand any of that. They get it actually very fast. The more senior people you talk to in an organization, they understand it faster, is what I have seen. If you go down the value chain, they take more time to understand the benefit of BIM. So it's better and it's best to go to the topmost guy and talk to him rather than dealing with the lowermost organization. One of the things that I also keep getting asked for is, which kind of projects do really requires BIM?
Yeah.
It's see, that question is almost like, which kind of projects do require a drawing? Of course, all projects require drawings, require BIM. Now, what you may get out of BIM or what you may end up doing with BIM will be different. You may not get into so many things if it's a simple project, but every project requires the clear thing for me. Every project requires BIM. That's the place that I start from, and then I interact with them. And then they also ask me at what stage of the project should I start BIM. Right? The question that is nothing to do with BIM. It's more to do with how ready you are to adopt BIM or to start with BIM at that stage. If I was an architect and I was practicing as an architect, I would start BIM at the very day one of my project. But do I have, if I'm an architectural firm who's going to start with BIM, do I have the trained manpower to turn around concepts in 2 days' time in a project? Right? If I don't have, then I can't start BIM at concept stage. So that question has got nothing. That question has got more to do with how ready I am about BIM, that sort of thing, right?
Nicely explained, Chirag.
I think I got another question. In my chat window, it says, when does BIM technology or when does BIM fail? Point. So I have one answer to that. I think BIM implementation may fail because the stakeholder may give up, but BIM as a technology never fails. So it's not BIM who is failing; it is the stakeholder who is either unwilling to understand or it is beyond his reach. BIM as a technology never fails.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What animes think about it? Like, how do we educate?
Yeah. So Adnan, I think we are looking at when we say a stakeholder, we have to understand they are already in the process of doing construction or being a part of it or being the part of a pre-construction, already using certain systems which probably are redundant today, but they are in the, let's say, traditional workflow, which also means they are in the business and it works for them. Not forget that one fact that they are using a system which is already working, and probably they might not have too much issues about it, or they are okay with it, happy with it. So we start from there, you know, as we say, we want to implement BIM. We start from a point when things are working, we want to make it better. It's not that things are not working. So this resistance in their mind that why do we need to change when everything is working, when everything is dirt cheap, when the software is, it can run on a system which is very less expensive, and it can be used by almost anybody in the AEC industry. Everybody knows AutoCAD, you know. So why do, that's where it starts, the question starts, and that's where we need to come back saying that what is the additional benefit they are going to, so basically the ROI, what is the return they are going to get out of it. So in today's perspective, it's as simple as trying to convert somebody from using a basic phone to a smartphone. The whole world has already adopted it. Maybe BIM has not, but it is very, very close. It's an efficient thing to have. It improves everything drastically. And what I personally feel the best thing is that it gives you. So when you go back home and you are, you know, you are off the laptop, you're off your work, you don't have to take stress what will happen tomorrow. Everything has been taken care of, and you know things are standardized, things are sorted out, there won't be any surprises. Change management is a click,
Right.
and as long as you're doing it rightly, so you are less scared. So that's what it gives back to us.
Exactly. Yes, yes, Animesh. Like I see, like there are almost more than 30 plus participants with us in this session. So, and I'm getting a lot of questions in the chat box. There's a very common question from lot many people, like how do we actually transition from CAD to BIM? How do we make a transition from CAD to the BIM? Yes, Chirag.
Um, I think, can you elaborate a little more about that question?
Yeah, CAD to BIM, transition from CAD to BIM, like computer aided drafting
Okay.
to the BIM workflows. Like how do we transition it from there?
Okay. Okay. So I think looking at this transition of CAD to BIM, honestly, CAD is a drafting tool. Whatever we think is correct, we just draw it. That's about it. Whereas BIM is not about drawing things only. It has got more to do with constructing something virtually. So if we begin to see it, or if we teach people who are going to adopt this technology, that it's more to do with thinking about what goes on at construction site and exactly modeling that or drawing that computer screen. It's more like that. So I think BIM has got not much parallel to CAD. So we should stop looking at it from CAD to BIM conversion. Start looking at it. Okay, I have a real building, and this what I'm drawing on the computer is actually a virtual building. It's easier to adopt it. So I always tell people, or if people ask me that, okay, if I have a CAD expert of several years, how easy or how fast can he learn BIM? I tell them a mason actually learn BIM faster, right? A person sitting in the office who doesn't know how to construct a building may take more time to learn BIM. So they get the what they are looking for. It's not about you don't need a great CAD operator to learn BIM. You just need a sensible guy who understands buildings, and he will learn BIM faster.
Right. You can go on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
we were discussing about the transition from CAD to BIM.
Question. Yeah, so like Chirag also said, you're not exactly changing from CAD to BIM, because BIM does so if you only talk about the things that CAD used to do, sections, drafting and all, so of course BIM is also a lot faster than that, which we already know. If the question is more about from like how you transition from the previous way of working, the old way of working to the new way of working,
right?
Well, it simply comes down to this is a lot faster way that we know. It can do so many great things that also we know. So there are a lot of benefits which you will find when you search about it. Google can tell you everything. You will see a lot of people deciding about it. But what we need to do is we need to transition in a tangible way where you can measure each of your development, let's say. So when you are really transiting from one place to the other, you will have to break it down in terms of what exactly are you changing. So let's say you were working on certain draft with some certain draftsmen who were able to produce this many drawings in this many days.
Right.
As soon as you switch to BIM, of course, you are just modeling it and section plans, elevations getting created. So how fast can you create those sheets? But then again, you will have to consider the fact that while doing so, you are actually feeding in a location as well, which was not there when a person was drafting in AutoCAD. So you might seem little slow at the beginning, but little later you will realize that you have to create a database of information, which can also generate a lot of other things like quantities and other stuff, views, 3D views, perspectives, which can also find out all the different activities that you do internally. Actually come sit with all the company, write down all the different files that we work on from day to day, all the data that is exchanged from one place to the other between teams,
Right.
and what is delivery or the product output that you are getting from it, and then work backwards and see how much of those can be taken. That you will be surprised that almost all of it can come from them with a ton of more information, right? So write all that down in a very simple way, and then that, hey, this is the plan, this is where we are going to start, these are the number of people involved, this is the number of software, hardware, systems involved, this is the time that we will take, typically also a 25% buffer because we are doing it for the first time. And then this is where we reach. These are the same output. You don't have to be scared. The existing workflow is doing the same thing in a slightly better and different way.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. So what we'll do now, Animesh and Chirag and Sohail, we'll take up the questions from the participants because there are so many participants looking for asking questions. So we'll start with Ajit. Yes, Ajit, you are unmuted and you are live.
Hi.
Yes.
Yeah, then. Hi, Chirag. The question was to you, actually. It's not a question, it's just a discussion.
Yeah.
It was like first time you said, actually, the main thing which we are is to get a requirement from the stakeholders. Yeah, that was rightly said. And that was the major hurdle that we are facing also. Because that was the communication gap which is we are feeling always, know about the requirement from the stakeholders. Because they will be expecting something and they will be discussing something and we'll understand something, and finally the delivery is deep, so that makes the problem all over. So I feel it is always better the stakeholders say something their requirement in the terms of BIM, in the language of, for example, LOD, level of development. So that if the stakeholders is aware about LOD and when they are saying about something about LOD, even we are able to understand the requirement. But the problem is we are saying that they will be needing LOD 300, but they will be expecting LOD 500 actually. So I have a lot of forums, BIM forum and everywhere. I'm basically a BIM MEP manager. So where I'm not finding any clarity over the LOD descriptions, because I'm finding some pictures only, but there is no much good reference which I'm finding to make stakeholders to understand what the LOD 300 is, LOD 350 is, and
in our Indian context. So we should refrain from talking more about LOD. People understand the Indian ways of doing things, right? So the term LOD or 4D, 5D, 6D, all of these are terms that have been picked up from the West. They're not, and people over here do not understand or do not relate to that. But your stakeholders will have difficulty in understanding that. So what I do usually, I'll talk to them about, okay, what GFCs for construction, you need shop drawings for fabrication or something of that sort, and you need as-built data to manage and run your facility. So let us look, information do you require in your drawings for GFC versus what information do you require in your drawings for shop drawings. Okay, so talk about what info they are used to. So the moment you say shop drawings, they understand that much better than LOD 400. Okay, the moment you say as built, they understand than LOD 500. So don't talk to them about 300, 400, 500, especially with the Indian guys. Talk to them more about information and then break it down for them. You tell them if they say no, I need just up to GFC. So tell them okay. So in GFC, you may not get the data that I would usually put in a shop now, placing all the hangers, brackets, the dimension of the duct from the adjacent wall. I will not be placing that. Will that be okay for you? And if they say, yeah, that's okay for me, but he's understood correctly as much as what you know. So you both are on the same page. So refrain from talking about these terms LOD and talk more shop drawings as built, or maintenance related data. That I think they will be able to understand faster.
Correct.
Hi, Chirag. It's an extremely informative session from you guys so far. My question is, when we talk about implementing BIM on projects in India, we generally see that majority of the projects are carried out at small and medium level. We do not have much complex projects in terms of being skyscrapers or having greater challenges in India, like the global market has. So my question is, how can the BIM's total potential be achieved on such projects, the small and medium ones?
Let's
And lastly, when speaking of such builders, introducing BIM to them, the paradigm of our only way it kicks in instantly with those builders. So how do we overcome this?
Yeah, I think instead of answering that question, is BIM useful for such smaller projects? I think you should ask them a question that in your current kind of projects, do you face any challenges? What challenges they must be facing, or if they are able to articulate that challenges, then it is easier to propose BIM to them for those challenges. Ramesh was speaking earlier about don't try to sell them BIM only. Try to talk to them about the problems that they may be facing and address those problems with BIM. Don't just give them the whole of BIM. I think it's important to sit down with those guys and say, okay, here I have a great technology, but that technology may only be useful to you if you have a challenge. So can we take a stand in your current construction scenario? What challenges do you face? If he says that he has a challenge of manpower, okay, let's say he doesn't get crew at site, my answer to them is, sure, is there a problem that you face that when you have the work, the crew is not available, and when the crew is available, is that the challenge? So if they say, yeah, sometimes that's a problem, then I say to them that, okay, if that's the case, why does the work not come to you who is available? And then you keep going backwards with them like that, and you will slowly figure along with them, or rather they will figure along with their real challenges, that they don't have coordinated data and that data is not correct. So the data comes to the site, but that site engineer still, and those questions are not being addressed by the architect or by the engineer who's and they are taking more time to do those drawings. So basically his work at site is because of not all the data being available to the site engineer, and he's getting that data in bits and pieces. So the work stops at site, and hence so when the crew was there, you couldn't get the work executed. And now when you have, by the time you were busy resolving that problem, the crew has already vanished and they have already started. So I think our problems are very, very simple, honestly. But it's the way we ask and talk to these guys. I think all of us over here, and I'm seeing a lot of many of us are from the BIM background. We know BIM more than anybody else. So what we have to do is we have to stop thinking BIM, thinking construction. The challenges that people who execute projects face. And one of the ways to do that is to stand at a construction site and see what is going on. Okay, or maybe what you can do is you can offer yourself that I'm willing to come down to your construction site for 7 days and to see what is going on, And if I valuable that I can offer you, then I'll offer you. But allow me to stand there for 7 days at a construction project, or allow me to sit with your design guys. If you're talking to the design consultant, tell them allow design team for 7 days and see what is going on over there, and then I'll come back with you with a solution. So I think BIM first and then construction later, and we have to reverse that a little bit.
You guys have implemented BIM on small and medium
Can you
projects.
be a little louder?
I'd like,
I'm not able to understand.
like in your experience, if you guys had the opportunity of implementing BIM on small and medium projects, I'd like to know how much of BIM's potential were you guys able to achieve on those?
Right. So I recently did a very small 80,000 square feet. Okay. And 80,000 square feet of total construction area. Right. So it is a very, very small project in a city like Bombay for us. Right. That project, the architect, structure, and MEP all together had to do the BIM modeling, and they were basically bringing all of that together. I think in this very smaller the project, the spaces are tighter. You don't have much scope. And in a city like Bombay or in a city like Bangalore, there are other problems of challenges of parking and many other things that we have. I think we have different problems altogether. We don't have those simple problems. We have this very stupid complex. So can I fit in all my 30 car parks in that tight space? And that is where people realize the benefit of BIM, because we are able to see in 3D everything, and because we are able to parking spot in every nook and corner of that space. People start realizing that, okay, because I had MEP all modeled over there and Bixes over there, I could see whether it is really fitting or is it I'm just asking for too from this model like that. So I think these are people, and as small a project as it can be, estimations can completely haywire for people. People start assuming that everything will fit in and my estimates are correct. Again, tighter the space, smaller the project, constructability is a larger problem in those projects. So if you do a 4D simulation for such project, to them that, okay, whatever you guys are thinking, and let's put it down in a 4D schedule and see whether it is really constructible or not. Then they start realizing what challenges they would face at site. So there is a lot of opportunity, honestly, if you ask me, even in small projects. Now, if we are thinking about from the cost perspective, is it going to cost BIM, or cost to do BIM in such projects? I think when work stops at site in such projects, then these things that we do in BIM, it's just tedious to handle people at site, and those costs are very high. And I can tell you out of experience that the people in the organization, directors of such builders or such companies, understand this much better than any of us can understand this. They value this very well.
Right.
That if project which completely simulated and completely thought through well in advance, that will, and which will not stop work at site for me, I'm ready to pay for it. And to that extent, if you see a project cost of construction, it is somewhere between 2,500 to 4,500 per square foot. Of course, in some mass housing projects, it's even lesser. It's even just less than 2,000 rupees a square foot. But the cost of doing design and BIM is hardly 20-30 rupees a square. So what are we talking about? Why are we talking about saving 20-30 rupees a square foot when my cost of construction is 3,000 rupees a square foot? So I think we have to relate these guys' perspective, and then you won't have this problem that my way is the only way. You won't have that problem with them.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes, Sunil.
Yeah. Chirag, sir, I want to ask you one question related to it is good to implement the life cycle assessment by using BIM or not for a project in India.
What to do with life cycle assessment?
Like to know the emission, the facts of the project before it is constructed. We can do emission control by using this. They are using a lot of transportation energy, material energy, then construction energy. These kind of energies we can implement LCA in BIM or not. It is good. It will give adequate mark.
So in my view, Sunil, although I'm not an expert at this, but in my view, and maybe somebody else can also answer that question. In my view, these kind of analysis or these kind of I think we can call it analysis for the sake of a lack of a word. But if these kind of analysis, they require more than 3D. They require data and numbers. So, for example, you need to know how many people are going to occupy, how many people are going to travel per hour. How much liters of water is going to get consumed, or to construct the project, how much amount of consumed, and hence the impact of that on the environment for construction, right? So it is all to do with a lot more to do with numbers. Yeah, there is like CFD analysis, which is more to do with 3D models. Sure, so there BIM can play a good role. But what BIM models can do is, because the model has all the information, it already has the space information, it has the material information, that data can travel to a software, an analytical software, which can easily in terms of spreadsheets, and then do the analysis with the help of numbers. So for example, tools like Green Building Studio or IES, these tools basically take BIM and they will extract all that non-graphical information that they want, right? Material information, the amount of openings, etc. Information, and then finally put it into number of occupants, consumption. All those data will have to be fed in, and you can do your analysis. Now, where BIM model versus CAD is, in CAD, if this data keeps changing, the areas keep changing, the opening sizes keep changing, it is difficult for an engineer who is going to do that analysis, for them to feed in that data in their programs every time there is a change. But with BIM, the data can move seamlessly to that software every time, so that fellow will not have to do that data entry again and again, right? That is where BIM is very useful. We had done this kind of thing between a tool like this, where the lighting analysis was going to be done in Dialux, and the data was taken from Revit via GBXML, and the data was fed into Dialux and similar other softwares. So yeah, so such things can happen.
What will be the change of life cycle when we implement this kind of thing?
Change in terms of life cycle as in what? What are you?
Means life cycle costing will be saved how much if we implement kind of project?
I honestly don't know what you can save in that, but at least I know that you will get the accurate numbers for you to decide whether you want to go ahead or not go ahead.
If data is unavailable, we can assume from other countries or not. Like in India, like data is very privacy and all. To get a particular kind of material, like manufacturing, how much it is power is consumed, how much raw material extraction is consumed, something like that. Like we can assume.
Yeah, Sunil, the data is easily available, and engineers who deal with this day in day out, environmental analysis, people who do the study, or environmental engineers and environmental architects have this data with them. It's not. It's just that we, as BIM guys, we don't know where to look. But that data is available with these engineers and architects who are doing this day in day out. People who do green certifications, they have such data.
Animesh,
Yeah.
yeah, I have a question for you. Like, I was in this BIM Middle East Dubai conference last week. So where I got to know, like, Dubai is actually implementing BIM, and they have mandated BIM in their projects as well. And in the tendering system as well, what they have done is, instead of uploading the CAD drawings, they have to upload the BIM models themselves in the form of IFC. We had a complete session over there. So what I see is, different countries have their own set of standards, but we from India, we don't have any common standards. No one is actually working on it, I would say, or even few people would work on it. Like, how, what you can suggest, like, would be the better way to have the BIM standards for the Indian contest? It's my question to all of the participants here and for other people as well. Yes, anyways.
Right, Adnan. So I think we are still at stage, we still need to get our head around them. Though a lot of companies have started, but still there are a lot of companies who are yet to start. Now, unlike other countries, like if I give you an example of like other countries where the entire design is frozen
Right.
before the construction starts, in India you might see that you are actually constructing the basement and first floor, and your design of 20th floor is still under approval or it has not been designed at all. So and this is the company, and then there are companies who are actually doing it very well. There are companies who are not doing it at all. It's a mixed use of them, let's say, overall. At that stage, standardize have an exact Indian standards. You will have to start with the companies and start with the individuals who are already doing based on Indian conditions, and then kind of formulate it. What I personally feel is, I mean, there shouldn't be any harm following somebody else's standards. I mean, in terms of the things that you can follow, of course, the Indian climatic conditions are different. The construction sector and the kind of stakeholders there are in India, that is different. But the points that can be taken, I mean, let's not reinvent the wheel. The points that can be taken from other standards can be followed, subject to the way the Indian industry works, right? But the Indian industry still works in a very chaotic fashion. So we'll have to let the industry settle down a bit. By that time, we can start looking at other standards from, let's say, UK or US, and keep on following them till a point where we see that, hey, now we know how are we different from them, what are the factors. So apparently, but yes, I mean, that's a valid point. If work starts today in terms of trying to create that standard, more than a year or maybe a couple of years to arrive at a point where that standard can be actually be formulated, and by that time the industry would have caught up with
Right.
them, and all. Then we can
Yeah,
write those down. And
I think like Chirag has something to say.
yeah, Chirag.
I'm I'm not sure about what standards also. I think every organization. See, there are. I mean, I have studied a little bit about it as in terms of so-called standards. See, I think they are guidelines. They're not standards. So what people have been doing over the world is they can give you a guideline along which you can function. In terms of standards, each organization or each group of community of people have to get together and they have to design their own standards. I don't think one's all, right? The way I am, I'm an architect by qualification, and I can tell you, architects are very finicky about the way they represent their drawings. I like a hatch, pen size and color, and I just want to do that. I'm not happy with somebody else's hatch pattern also. So whatever I'm going to standardize, I can't even standardize line weights. I can't even standardize hatch pattern that. So with BIM, it's more and more difficult when we talk about standards. I think what is important is there should be some common way of functioning between people, let's say between design consultants and the builder, or the builder and the contractor. As long as they are able to communicate and send their data to each other, which is favorable to them, I think that should be. Yes, there is something called as ISO 19650. We can, and again, they are all guidelines. They don't say you should do something in a certain way. They just say that, if you're communicating with somebody, it needs to be set up. There has to be a process to it. You can't just send an email and expect a response. There has to be a process. So if we can utilize that and standardize what you are doing in your organization, I think that's good enough. That's just great.
So I agree with you partially, Chirag, but then again, I was of the same opinion at some point of time, not trying to follow any standard and just, from a very, this is what needs to be done, this should be done, whatever works in the industry. So, I mean, because when you try and follow a standard, it's there because it's kind of a myth. You cannot really follow a certain standard for BIM because it is non-linear. It is too vast, too big. Standardize it means it's almost impossible. But then again, everything needs to be standardized at some point of time because, we can understand BIM because we have been working for 15 years plus or maybe 10 years plus. But what about the novice who just starts? he has to refer something, and if he goes and he's done, because he would have 10 different opinions of for a certain thing, and he will be completely confused. Anybody who's trying to implement it, he will start searching and he will complete that what he really needs to do, which standard to follow, US, UK, or which guidelines to follow, like you said. So yes, I mean it's not a standard, though it is guide to be there on paper, and it should not only regulate what we do, it should also regulate how the softwares operate. So somebody can draft, let's say there is a concrete beam kind of a thing, which is also like a hanging wall. So does it have to be modeled as a wall or a beam, or so standardize the software itself, the tool itself, which allows you to do one thing in multiple ways. There are always possibility that things can go wrong. Point is yet to come when even softwares will start formulating those things, where we reach a place where you are not allowed to make a mistake in the first place. We reach a place where things get standardized automatically, like in interface of a smartphone, let's say. I mean, the way apps have been designed, you cannot do wrong with it. You cannot freeze it. But in terms of tool, we actually know certain commands which the software is unable to take. We can mess it up. So from that perspective, work needs to be done. I agree with you when you say that guidelines have to be followed, but that's for us. That's for people who are seasoned enough to understand what needs to be done. Imagine a company which is a start, which doesn't have any qualified BIM people there, but they still want to start off with their in-house architects, in-house engineers, but they should be able to learn it, follow it, and still get the right results. So we will have to formulate something for them which they can actually stick to and results. And that's just a perspective, though.
Yeah, sure. I just also, because Adnan, I think the question that you originally had was, various countries have, or at least they are, they have a guideline, or they are mandating. A lot of that is also happening in India. It's a myth that it is not happening in India. It is happening in India. About certain large-scale projects where BIM has been mandated, or certain government agencies like Maha Metro, the Maharashtra Metro, which has been mandating BIM on all projects in Maharashtra. Know that Airports Authority of India has been mandating BIM in all the new airports that are coming in. We are aware about things like, I want to share with you about something what is happening. And it's not a very recent development, it's actually a very old development, but it is going to take shape now. So I'll just share my screen on that. In the newspapers, and I've just pulled up that link right now. It's an article which came in Hindustan Times on the May 15th, 2018. And it's software to scrutinize building plans in Mumbai will cost BMC 8 crore. So we all know that in Bombay and many parts of the country, there is auto DCR as a software by municipalities, and what they are proposing is a software which is now being called as let me pull up. If you notice here, it says 3D BIM. So according to the BMC, the new software will scrutinize 3D plans of proposed buildings via 3D BIM before giving approval, right? And when I started digging more, I found out they have already started their trials. The POC is going on right now for using, and they are now terming it as BIM DCR, right? So that is going on in the MCPM, the Mumbai Corporation, or rather the Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai. It is going on. So I feel that India has taken its steps or cohesively like the other parts of the world do, but India has started taking its step towards BIM, and that is also one of the reasons why the use of BIM has began to increase. Finally, so many years, it has began to increase in India as well for Indian projects.
So, I think we have taken up almost all the questions from the participants, and it was a very nice session with you, Chirag, Sohail, Animesh, and all the participants together. I hope we continue the same kind of event in the coming next month. So, thank you all for joining. and stay connected. Thank you, Chirag.